my name is Jennifer Collins, and I am a member of the Newtown Lions Club, and I'm here with my friend and very accomplished artist, David K. Merrill, who has kindly shared some images of his paintings with the Newtown Lions Club. And the proceeds of the sales from those images will benefit the charities that Newtown Lions Club supports. His book, Portraits of a Lifetime, will be offered on Amazon and also Barnes & Noble and other international book distributors. And we're here today just to discuss with Mr. Merrill his paintings and get a little insight from his great works. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this first one, the scene, why you chose these particular trees?
I chose this to do this painting, which I was so extremely emotionally involved in. It's a family of birches, but it also represents my own family. My wife, my first wife, Natalie, and I, and our 4 children, and the large birch represents the maker of all things, and it's and I love winter, and I just wanted to get a feeling that the sun was softly shining on these birches.
It's a very beautiful image, and it definitely has a feeling of serenity, but also expansiveness as far as the depth of the painting. And what made you choose to go so far back in the painting?
Well, my wife Natalie developed Hodgkin's disease, and she passed away in June, on June 25th. This was 1972. Our children went back to school, and I decided to devote as much time as needed to paint this painting. And really, it's in memory of her. She loved birch trees, and she loved her family, and it was just such an important painting to do at that time in her memory.
It's really beautiful and detailed, and I can't really make out where you signed the painting in this particular one. Did you put your name somewhere in this painting, and did you hide it in a specific spot?
I hid it on the largest birch tree on the left side as we're looking at it. It's very small because I didn't want to take away from the painting with making my name big.
That's understandable. It's a gorgeous
Right.
painting. And maybe we'll move to the next one.
This painting was the first painting I did after my mother passed away in January. On January 20th, she passed on to the Lord. And it represents a life growing up with my mom and dad, and I love to ice skate on ponds in Monroe, and that pond just a memory of having so much joy in skating. I love to skate, and
I feel like in this picture you're catching maybe the transition of a season, from winter maybe into spring, because it looks to me that
Yes.
perhaps the pond is starting to melt.
Yes, it was going into, right, it's in March, and the open areas were starting to melt faster than in the woodland areas with the trees. And I wanted as much depth in this painting as I could possibly achieve. So I started back as far as possible to develop the feeling of woodland, mixing in evergreens at the same time as I was coming forward into into the painting, into the foreground.
Now I see the reflection of the middle tree in the pond. Do you find it difficult to capture water when you're painting, as far as the motion and the texture of water?
Yeah, water takes on a different element, of course. It's very different. And sometimes, like this picture, it's very quiet. There's no movement to the water. And it's just a very, very quiet pond. So that the reflections were very easy to do. Whereas you get movement in water, like in the ocean, you got a lot of activity going on, and you want to get that feeling of motion. But this, I wanted a feeling of very still, quiet day.
And with the number of trees in the background of this particular painting, how long would this painting have taken you to complete?
Actually, when I was much younger, back in my 30s and 40s, I just had a fire inside me, and I just painted all the time. And for 7 consecutive years, I did 2 paintings a week. Wow. And just poured out everything I had into every painting. I was so fortunate to sell. And I think the most thing that I'm most proud of is that my 4 children never went hungry. They never went in a cold house. They never went without clothes. And so I provided, with my arts, being able to sell and sell often.
Talent.
I was very fortunate. I had a lot of people interested in my painting.
I can see why. Do you have any idea how many paintings to date you think that you've made?
I've done a little over 3,000 paintings. Wow. And 24 murals.
Oh, okay.
And the first was Southbury and the town hall. And that was a very memorable experience. And
the scenes and states that you paint from, is it fair to say it's pretty much the entire East Coast, as far as like New York maybe to Maine?
It's basically New England and all phases of New England. I find that I'm inspired by so much of New England, the inlands, the mountains, the lakes, the ponds, and then you get out to the coast, the lighthouses, and the ocean. It's a whole different atmosphere. But it was so enjoyable going to the coast in Maine and studying the ocean and so forth. And I found that interesting also.
All right, well, why don't we move to the next painting and see. Oh, now this particular one of the questions I have for you is, are
yes.
all the places you paint actual places, or some of them things that you've created in your mind?
Yes, this I made up with a small porch and a place that I'd love to live there for a while. And I just had a clothesline that I felt didn't need a lot, just a touch of red shirt, and that's the name of the painting, The Red Shirt.
Love that.
I found that I had a love for the ocean, and as I say, I'd love to spend a lot of time in that building and paint right in the building of scenes of the shoreline, and so.
And this particular one, did you want the focal point to be the one red shirt
on
the line?
Well, it is. Of course, there's so much more that it encompasses, but yes, the red shirt. Just something to attract the eye and give you something more to look at, and an empty clothesline, so okay. That's the reason.
All right, so let's take a look at the next one.
Yes. Mount Katahdin. Now, that painting is very special to me because on August 2, this year, I want to go to the top. I want to climb to the top. It's 5,269 feet above sea level. Mm-hmm. It's a very rugged old thing. It was named by the Indians, Katahdin, which means the greatest mountain. And I just painted this as a goal to reach that top of that mountain, hiking up there. And my youngest son, Gary, and my daughter, Cindy, and my nephew, Alan, and myself are going to make that climb
Wonderful.
on
And
a sunny day.
a sunny day. Well, hope there's no rain that day.
Oh, yes.
Now, in this particular picture, I see the two birds off to the left
the
of the
two
mountain.
birds. Oh, my goodness. Well, they're companions. They're soulmates. They're together. And I find that never one bird. I never paint three birds, but two together. And it's kind of, you can interpret the way that you want. It could be your sweetheart flying with you, or your wife, or a friend, a close friend. They're together, and it's so subtle. But I'm glad you brought that out.
Do you try to do that in paintings, have one particular detail that maybe is a little bit hidden, but when you look closely at the painting, it kind of catches your eye?
It comes out, yes. Yes, it does. And, well, I used the rock in the right lower corner to put the name Mount Katahdin, and my name also added onto the rock, and that's the way I signed the painting. As Maine certainly is a rocky place, but a beautiful place. I love Maine, and I always will.
And that's where you live currently?
Pardon?
You live there currently in Maine?
Yes.
Okay. And when did you move to
Maine? I've spent summers, every summer up there for years, since 1946.
Oh, wow.
Had bought a house in a small town called Hiram, lived there for 2.5 years. But we had mom and dad had a cottage built back in 1946, and we went up there every single summer, and just loved it. Just loved that.
A lot of colors to
that
choose
way of
from
life.
up there.
I would say, one of my favorite movies is on Golden Pond.
Oh,
you know, it's
Henry
about
Fonda.
an old couple that enjoying the wonderful summer in the loons, making that special sound in the evening time. It's really beautiful. So.
Yeah, so maybe we'll move to the next one and see. Oh, another different season.
Oh, my God, yes. We're in Newtown on Route 25, looking down at Hawley Pond. And my wife, Merrill, wow, she was after me for 3 years to do this painting. And she said, you've got to do it. You've got to. And I kind of put it off and put it off. So finally, there was a break in time, and I said, okay, Merrill, we're going to do it right now. So I put together 17 skaters and just put it together, a father and daughter on the far left, a mother watching her son. There was, I wanted a woman alone, and she was very, very excellent skater, and doing all kinds of, skating.
So how long would you sit at a scene like this for in order to take it in, to capture all the details?
Okay, I went to, with my wife, Merrill, we went to near Radio City Music Hall down in New York City at the skating pond there, where they have the Christmas tree they put up every year. And I took 2 rolls of film, and just from a distance, up high, just looking down, and they were all candid. They didn't know they were being photographed. And then I picked out the ones that I felt would work best. And a mother with a child over on the far right, and some skaters skating alone, and friends. It's just a happy time. I always enjoyed skating on the ponds in Monroe, as I said, and so I really got into this, and my wife, Merrill, was so happy that I finally decided to do it. The snowman in the distance across the pond, that came as the last subject that I put in. And we have our dog, Kirby, near the fire. He's so small, it's hard to see. But our dog, Kirby, was listening to the crackling fire. And I wanted an overcast, cold-looking kind of day, and nice to get home and have a hot cup of cocoa.
And would you say this was maybe twilight that you were trying to capture, the twilight time of day?
The end of late afternoon, and it's going to start getting real
You
dark.
can feel how brisk it is just from
Yes.
looking at the sky, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it has a lot of meaning because it's connected to my late wife, Merrill. We were together 35 wonderful years. I met her at the town hall, at the Edmond Town Hall.
Oh, so that's why she wanted you to be in this
Yes.
particular painting. Okay.
Yes.
All right, so maybe we'll take a look at the next one.
Yes.
Oh.
This one represents a little girl named Elizabeth. And she had, oh, wow, this is a very large painting, but it was done for a very close friend and his wife, Doug Fedorko and Linda Fedorko. And their first child was named Elizabeth, and this represents her rocking horse and school clock, which is important. Her father was a school teacher at Massac High School for 37 years, and the rocking chair.
And I see the building blocks, the child's building blocks. There's an E. Was that
Yes.
for Elizabeth?
Those blocks represent the date, year she was born, and her father and mother and initials. And I had the window open so there was a feeling of growth. It was springtime, and things began to grow. And like the child, Elizabeth would be growing. And I think the most challenging was the wallpaper.
Yeah. I was going to say inside painting interior might be a little different, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But I found it takes a lot of patience to be an artist and a lot of love. A lot of love.
Do you find things like the shears, the curtains, that's a little bit more challenging?
A little more
capture?
challenging because you wanted to get a feeling of transparency. You're looking through, and the school clock represents the time that she was born.
I see.
So the symbol, the teddy bear of the child, loves teddy bears and her rocking horse and so forth. But you know, this. It's a very large painting. It's hard to.
And how do you choose how large you're going to make a painting?
It depends on how much subject there is in the painting. I think the more subject, the larger your concept would be to make it that size.
So maybe we'll advance to the next one. Take a look.
Pardon?
This the next one. This we're back to a different winter scene, and I see that we have two birds
we
again
have two
here.
Birds.
Even number.
And this painting is called Soulmates, and it's just winter. I love winter, and I love birches. They're there, and the evergreen trees. But it could represent a Christmas tree, which is a happy time, a family time, and the two birds. Are soulmates. They've been close together for many, many years, and so that's why I named that Soulmates. But not a large painting, but a painting that means a lot to me. It means really.
And do you have any techniques, or do you find it challenging, or do you have any techniques as far as the different shades of white? Because there are so many different shades, like when you're trying to capture the shadow of the tree in the front.
Oh yes, yeah. The shadow coming across. It could be a small pond that has just a coating of snow ice on it in the meadow. It could be that. I was thinking of that when I painted it, and a lower sun, so we have a longer shadow. It take you out of the picture, but.
And do you have a favorite season that you enjoy painting?
Wow, you find I love winter. I did. For some reason, I enjoyed as a child going sledding, going skating, and I don't know, there's something exciting about seeing snow coming down, and I don't know, it's just I guess the childhood in me. but I like all seasons really. My mother loved autumn, and she kept saying, "David, paint autumn," and I said, "In time."
All right, well, let's take a look at the next one.
Okay. This one, probably one of the most emotional. It's called Approaching Storm. We were living in Maine, and my wife, first wife, Natalie, who's the mother of my 4 children, had Hodgkin's disease, and she was in a hospital. And I went to visit. The doctor told me that she had a very short time to live. So I never started painting in the evening, but that night I came home and I had to paint this painting. And it was Approaching Storm that I saw in my mind. I wanted a lot of drama and a feeling that there was a large storm coming. And it was. I was without a mother of my children, a wife, was so supportive and so patient with me. And it's not hard. I mean, sometimes it's hard living with an artist, but she was so kind and loving, and she was just, I don't think I'd be an artist today if it wasn't for her 15 years of just giving herself and in such a loving way. Well, it's so important.
This painting definitely has some dynamics to it, and the clouds, there's definitely some weight there that you can feel the storm coming in. But I do see the one cloud with the light a little off to the right center.
Yes.
So is that something where you're giving a little bit of inspiration and hope in the storm coming?
I'm thinking, yes, that's a light of day that's really powerful on that cloud, and that represents her life, and she at the time is still alive, still part of my life, and she'll always be part of my life. I see her in my children, and the memories you incorporate into life is just amazing. So many wonderful days.
Well, this is a beautiful tribute to that.
And she was such a great mother. Wow.
Good. Wow. So maybe we'll move to the next one and see.
This one,
very different.
It's Maine and the lobster. You can't go near the shore and not see lobster boats with traps, and they get up. The sun hasn't even come up yet, and they're out getting their traps pulled up and getting the lobsters out to go to market. And it's a different way of life, and it's a hard life, but there's so many lobstermen in the coast of Maine, and they spend their livelihood and their life doing this work, and it makes a great meal if you like lobster.
Well, this particular painting, I love the way the sky meets the water.
Yeah, it's kind of a misty feeling, and that's the sun breaking out a little bit. It's called Mainstay, and I always love Mainstay. Just to stay in Maine is great. So I put the title on the back of the boat, Mainstay, and this is one of Doug's favorite paintings.
And where have you signed in this particular one? Where have you signed your name?
Oh, my name? Wow, that's a good question. Probably on the back of the boat, very small.
That's where it seems.
Yeah, very small in the dark.
I think it would be hard to put it in the water in this particular one, because it almost looks like glass in this particular painting.
I think it's on the back of the boat in the shadow.
Yeah, and there's such a stillness to this picture. You don't really, So,
wow.
All right, well, let's take a look at the next one.
Wow, that's a different perspective. We're looking at a church that was where the funeral service took place for my first wife, Natalie. And this is in Hiram, Maine. It's a Methodist church. And it's titled A Lifetime on a Saturday Afternoon. And it was an eulogy given by a minister that we were very fond of, Reverend Lewis. And he just gave a marvelous eulogy for my wife, Natalie. And this is the first painting that I did. It was in July that I did this. And of course, the birches came after the school opened up, the children went back to school. So this is actually the first painting I did in July, early July. And it's the steeple of the church, of course. And it's Maine. It's Maine. And a drama in the sky. And we came out of the service, going into the church, the sky had this dark feeling. But we came out, it was raining. It couldn't rain any harder. The minister said that God was, tears were coming from God for Natalie, my wife. So it's a day that is so
I think the sky reflects a little bit of that heaviness. You can feel that in the colors and the size of the clouds.
Yeah, that's just wow. That brings back
some memories.
A depth of intense memory, intense memories.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Well, maybe we'll take a look at the next one.
Yes.
Oh, this vibrant color here.
Wow.
Yeah.
The green, Doug's green barn.
Yeah.
But this was an actual green barn in Southbury, down at the end of the River Road, going up Purchase Road, Brown Purchase, going just as you turn the corner, this green barn, and it just had such a gorgeous, to me, it was absolutely beautiful architecture, and unfortunately, it was good that I made a lot of sketches of it and made a painting of it, but it burned down in 1955. It burned to the ground. I went into the barn after the fire, but somebody got there before me. I was looking for the cow weather vane, and it was gone.
Wow.
But I found an old lantern that was there.
Something to remember the scene.
Yeah,
from,
so I pulled the old lantern out. It was all charred and burned, but I
Nice
took it home and made a
memento.
painting of it. But I love the architecture of this building, the barn. Is just.
I think the peaks and the slopes of the roof. It's just very interesting to look at, and I like the shadows that you included there.
I was just a lot of memories, and all these paintings bring back so many vivid memories of work done, through the years.
And how do you decide on brush choices? So, for example, this picture, you have the wooden barn, but there's a stone foundation, and then you have the grass, but then you have the trees in the back. How do you choose which brush to do which texture?
Right. Basically, the barn was done with a larger brush, and then I go to a smaller brush to get the cracks and the separation between the boards and and small brushes to do the panes of glass and the windows. And then the grass field, I work up text,ure and then a finishing touch with blades of grass. And they give a feeling of texture and life to the grass area. And some evergreens in the way background and a field of different color. It's a green, soft green in the distance.
And I like the way the sky just feels so crisp that
the
day.
moving
just clear and crisp.
Of the sky, give it some movement to it. It's such a large, stable architecture that I felt it needed a little bit of movement in the clouds. And
definitely looks like a well-loved barn.
Exactly.
Well-used and well-loved.
Oh, yes. So that's one of my favorite barns that I've painted. And I've painted so many barns. I love barns.
What is it about barns that you like? Is it the age, the utility?
I think that,
what is it?
as a child, my uncle on Elm Street in Monroe had a barn, Uncle Herbert Johnson. And I just love to go up there and walk through the barn. You smell the hay and see the cows and different, and the different animals. And
a lot of life going on there.
It was so different, going there, and so delightful. It's something so down to earth that it was special. And that's where my love of barns came. And I remember going into the military service, coming back, my uncle had died. The property went up for sale. I wanted to go onto the property to do some drawing of the old barn, and they wouldn't let me. The property was up for sale, said you can't go on the property, you have to go off. So that enticed me even more to paint barns.
Okay.
So that's I just,
Gives you a good feeling back to childhood.
the feeling, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it was exciting.
Okay. Well,
the
let's
old
see what the
barns.
next subject matter is. Let's see.
Yes.
Oh.
Lighthouses. Yes, as I
Okay.
began to venture out to the Maine coast and to Rhode Island coast, Massachusetts, some of Connecticut, there are 17 lighthouses of just all different shapes and sizes. The brick one that you see, what's that? Martha's Vineyard, which happened to be in the movie Jaws.
Ah!
And that you saw the top of that one.
Yeah.
And it was the tallest lighthouse in the center of Portland Head. But there's so many. My favorite, one of my favorite is the very short lighthouse just in from the brick upper right-hand corner. The one in there is called Owl's Head. And it's one of my favorites. It's not a large lighthouse, but when you're up there, you see water, so much water around. You can see Rockland, and it's just so delightful. So
Have you ever
beautiful.
painted a lighthouse illuminated?
Yes. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
But there's, as I say, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire is there, Constitution Light, a light in Connecticut that's New London to the very far foreground to the right. That's New London. One of the most popular in Maine is just a little bit above that. It's called Nubble Light or Nedick Light on York, Maine. It's in York, Maine. It's one of people's favorite. It's like on the little island. You can't walk to it. It's separated by water, but it's one of people's favorite in Maine. There's so many beautiful lighthouses. This is just touching on a small part of New England. I think it's over 200 lighthouses altogether throughout
Definitely
all of New England.
part of New England's
It's hard
history.
to pick and choose, but
Sure.
that's what I came up with. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, well, let's take a look at the next one.
This one is owned by Doug Fedorko, as he owns so many. It's the first time I put a windmill in the painting, and it's a large brick farmhouse with several fireplaces. You can see by the chimneys, and not too far from the barn. And the last thing that I put in here was a snowman. And
In the middle.
Rhonda had an inscription below that was so special that the snowman is welcoming with open arms, and the open arms are sticks of trees, of course, but the snowman has welcomed the viewer to the scene. And it's late afternoon, the sun is going down, and again, winter. I just have a feeling for winter. And of course, all the barns have fence posts and sometimes barbed wire, sometimes rail fence. So that fence played a large part in my designing of paintings. I can't take you to this scene, but I made it up as I went along, and I have the basic concept and then work from that and build the painting.
I think the interior lights in the brick house seem to give it a little bit of a warm glow. You can definitely tell the sun is setting based on the light hitting the brick house and the top of the brown barn all the way to the right.
On the silo. Yes, just a touch of warmth there in a cold winter. It's going to be a cold winter evening coming, and but it's one of my favorite paintings.
And I almost feel like in this particular one that the sky is really, it almost feels like it's moving in this.
Just a very subtle
Yeah.
clouds in the sky.
That time is moving and
moving feeling. And
yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, this is such a beautiful, and how large is this one?
I believe it's about 40 inches long, and
Okay.
maybe about 20 inches high, I would say, you know, in length.
Well, this one seems like a great one to end on. We,
Yes.
greatly appreciate your insight into all of your amazing works.
I think that I try to have a theme, peace. I want the people to feel peaceful and restful as they're looking at my paintings. I want to give them a good feeling that they can be part of the painting and their imagination become part, and have a peaceful, joyful experience with my work. That's what I hope for and what I work for.
Well, that's a beautiful gift to give people who appreciate, and you're sharing your talent in that way.
I think it comes from a faith that I have. I developed a faith that I felt is so important to take on that journey as a full-time artist and know that I'm not alone, that my Maker's with me, and my faith in my Maker is so important. And no matter what happens in life, you move forward and you keep going until it's your time to move on.
Well, that's great. That's a great thought to end on. So thank you very much. Appreciate all of your insight.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.